December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. These were words spoken by President Roosevelt after a surprise attack that changed history. December 7th will be remembered because of its destruction, shock, and devastation. But for our family, December 7th means something much different. December 7th, 2024 was the day that my son received a brand new heart. 283 days earlier, we walked into the hospital. We had our bags in one hand and we had hope in the other. We thought we were packing for a few days, a few weeks, maybe a few months. We were wrong. 283 days. That's 9 months and change. 9 months of eating hospital food. 9 months of hearing monitors beep at 3 o'clock in the morning. 9 months of watching my son sleep, just praying that his failing heart would continue to beat. My son was 12 years old enough to understand what the word transplant meant, old enough to ask me questions that I didn't have the answers for. At home, he had 2 younger brothers, 9-year-old brother who was brave and stepped into the role of big brother, and 2-year-old brother who didn't understand why there was an empty seat at the dinner table. But how do you explain heart failure to a 2-year-old? How do you explain waiting to anybody? Because waiting was our full-time job. Day 1, hopeful. Day 50, adjusting. Day 150, exhausted. Day 200, praying harder than we prayed for anything. Day 280, still waiting. We weren't just waiting for a heart, we were waiting for a phone call. We learned something in that kind of waiting. Waiting isn't passive, waiting is work. Waiting is choosing hope when the test results come back worse than you anticipated. Waiting is smiling at your child when you feel like falling apart inside. Waiting is answering everybody's questions with confidence when you're unsure of the answers yourself. And every time our phones rang, our hearts would stop. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the call. Until one day, the morning of December 6th, it was. We accepted a heart for your son last night. And in that moment, gratitude collided with grief. You see, for my son to receive a brand new heart, another family had just experienced unimaginable loss. That's the part of transplant that they don't talk about enough. Every transplant is a miracle wrapped up in mourning. I finished that morning by driving my 9-year-old son to school and my 2-year-old son to daycare, and I went to the hospital with hope in one hand and humility in the other. The next morning on December 7th, we wheeled our son off to surgery. And as those doors closed, we weren't sure if we just heard the last heartbeat we would ever hear from our son. We went back to his room and we waited and waited and waited. The doctor finally walked inside the room and said 4 words I will never forget. The heart is beating. 4 words that changed everything. Just 10 days later, for the first time in 293 days, our son stepped outside the walls of that hospital and we drove him home. When we got home, 9-year-old brother was happy to pass back the role of big brother. And 2-year-old brother smiled. Because every chair at the dinner table was full. And I wasn't listening anymore for monitors. I was listening for life. For 283 days, our family waited. And we learned something during that time. We learned that waiting is something that can be impactful. It is something that can change our lives. December 7th will be remembered as a day of infamy. But in our family, it means something different. It is a reminder that every ordinary moment is an extraordinary gift. It is a reminder that time is not something spent casually. It is something that you are entrusted with. And it is a reminder that the heart is more than just an organ. It is courage in a 12-year-old who rarely complained. It is bravery in a 9-year-old who stepped into a role he was never meant to fulfill, and innocence in a 2-year-old who just wanted his big brother home. But most of all, it is generosity in a family that said yes during their darkest hour. For 283 days, we waited for the perfect heart. And here's what I learned. The perfect heart is not the one with the strongest beat. It's the one that teaches you how to live. It teaches you that you don't have a choice in how long you wait. You don't have a choice when the phone rings. You don't have a choice in writing the chapters of your life that you would never want to live. But you do have a choice in how you live while you wait, how you love while you wait, and how you hope while you wait. December 7th will be remembered for one reason. But for our family, it'll be a day that'll live in gratitude. And every heartbeat that we hear from our son will be a reminder that life is not guaranteed. It is a gift. Madam Toastmaster.